courtesy that those of you that wish to speak be allowed to go at the beginning of the meeting so that we can then be aware of your comments. You have signed Ms. Cloud. Would you like to come up and speak?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Good evening. Just have a brief comment here. My name is Sharon Cloud. I'm a resident of Brushy Creek Estates on High Falls Lake in Monroe County. Thank you for this opportunity to come and speak with you. As the president of High Falls Tualaga Watershed Alliance, I represent over 10,000 petitioners from throughout the state of Georgia. Over 1,200 members of the Save High Falls Lake Facebook group, and over 100 members actively engaged in efforts to protect our watershed. We appreciate that the board's efforts to represent the concerns of our community. We also appreciate the modifications to this concept made by the developers. But I would like to take this opportunity to express our intention to continue engaging with decision makers regarding development. Our primary concern will remain the impact of stormwater runoff and the excavation of the granite outcrop. The High Falls Lake Dam was built in 1890 and is embedded in that same granite shelf, less than 1.5 miles away. We would appreciate a copy of the geology study that confirms the construction will not impact the dam. But I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to share my thoughts regarding Mr. Geiger's opinion expressed in this week's edition of the Herald Gazette. The High Falls community is comprised of over 1,000 households that is uniquely situated between Jackson, Forsyth, and Barnesville. It's a toss-up for us between which one of these shopping districts we choose to spend our money, a factor he should consider before he diminishes our concerns and the impact our dollars might have on his advertising. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Joe Reed.
My name is Joe Reed, and I live at 504 Brushy Creek Circle, 30233, and I'm a student at Gordon State University. I'm taking literature this semester. I suspect something will be built on the I-75 property. It's too valuable not to build something on it, but I have these little points. I want the impacted roads improved and widened with signals and turning lanes before the first distribution center opens. Secondly, I really want the construction done in 2 to 4 stages with 1 to 2 year pauses between each so that we can gauge the impact of what has been built before the next phase begins. Third, I want park assets incorporated into the design, such as a paved walking trail and bike lanes on adjacent roads. The health of my fellow citizens and the health of truck drivers would be immeasurably improved by safe places to walk and ride bikes. I was really disappointed that the park plan for Highway 36 couldn't go forward. Fourth, I'd like solar panels on all the warehouse roofs. It seems like a waste not to put them there and take some of the burden off the electrical infrastructure. Fifth, I want to know where the people who will be working in these warehouses will be welcomed and able to affordably live. I don't expect a warehouse salary to single-handedly pay for a 3-bedroom home, but maybe smaller starter homes on smaller lots should be planned in Lamar County. It's not right to say that we want the tax revenue but not the responsibility for the needs of the employees and their families. And finally, I would like the Lamar County Commission to oppose the Hillwood project on the Lamar County property, which is directly on High Falls Lake. Butts County will have 30 warehouses between exits 201 and 205, and at least 6 truck stops. That deserves at least a pause. Thank you for what you guys are doing. You have a tough job.
Mary Ann Leatherwood.
Hi, my name's Mary Ann Leatherwood, and I live at 1263 Saddleport in Jackson. Small little part of our subdivision that is Lamar County. I was here last week and told you guys what an impact this was having on my property. Commissioner Levitt was at my house Sunday, and he literally called my property ground zero because of where it's located. I'm gonna give you guys some pictures to look at, just to give you a little bit of insight as to what I'm dealing with. So I hope you'll take the time to look at them, and then I'm gonna go over a few things that I think if they're gonna develop this piece of property that is in my backyard, that I need in order for me to continue to have some kind of normalcy on an everyday basis. And I have plenty, if anybody out there would like some as well, I'll be glad to give you some. If you don't mind taking a look at those, the first few represent what my yard was like before the sabotage took place with all the tree cutting. You can see the deer right there at my fence, and the fact that the woods are there, you cannot see through the woods. Okay, if you go through those first 4 pages, that's kind of what that represents. That was my life before December. If you get to page 5, this is where kind of my nightmare begins. If you look in the background, there are no trees there anymore. All I have is a whole lot of runoff every time it rains, and you can see that in the foreground of the picture. And this started in December of 23, a couple of weeks before Christmas, and my daughter and I have been dealing with this situation ever since. Page 6 represents the left side of my yard, where that is my attempt with these tree logs to keep the wash from coming down. And again, you can see now that there are no trees in the background from where it's all been cleared. Page 7 pretty much represents the same thing, except where I have moved to the inside of our fence, which is my backyard to the left, where you can tell now there's no grass. Where I used to have a yard, now it is just a wash downhill. And that's all because of the impact these trees being cut are having on our property. Page 8, you can see the gate there, and the fact that there are no trees there. That is the same exact gate that if you look at page 1 through 4, you could not see through the woods, and that's where the deer were as well. Now we have nothing. Page 9, that's just a close-up, again, of where the woods are no longer in our backyard. In the background of that, right over that back tree line is I-75, which is now what we hear every day, 24/7. From our living room, we can hear the traffic. Page 10, that beautiful little dead twig they left standing there is also what we see from our backyard. And as you can tell, there are no trees there for a sound barrier. And again, that's what we hear all day, I-75. Flip to page 12. If you do a 180-degree turn from looking at the bare ground behind us, you see our house, which used to be covered by all the trees. You couldn't even tell we lived there. And now we have just a clear shot where, you know, now we have to shut the window blinds, and make sure, you know, nobody's lurking around to know our business. There's just no privacy anymore, none. Page 13 represents moving a little forward to the right in my backyard. That swing set is a little bit to the right of the gate that was in the previous pictures. That there is a downhill slope in my backyard, and you can see where when it rains, it washes down to the right side and eventually ends up in my neighbor's yard. And I had grass there at one time as well. Picture number 14, that has my awesome dog in it, Maverick. You can see once you walk through the gate, that's the right side of our yard, and again, you can see where it's washing down because we have no protection anymore. Page 15 is just a close-up of that, just to represent the fact that you can clearly see where it's running down the side of our yard. Moving a little more forward to the right, our house is directly on the left of this picture. That privacy fence is mine. And you can see now where also it's continuing to wash down the side of our yard and it's killing that grass as well. Same there with picture on page number 17, where it's killing my grass. And I'm kind of OCD about my yard, and this drives me crazy because we take good care of our yard, and we had grass up until all this started taking place. All right, picture 18 is the opposite side of the fence. Our neighbors live to the right of this, and as you can see where it's running out the yard there, it has already made a hole there and is washing away. And that is part of the problem that drains directly into their driveway. And as I mentioned last week, every time it rains, they have to pressure wash their driveway because they're getting all of this runoff from our yard. So, being that is a problem that we never had, here's what I would like to request from the developer or whomever is involved in fixing these problems that have been created. And this also comes after Commissioner Lovett being at my house Sunday afternoon. I thought it was really awesome that he came out there. He and his wife were really sweet and kind and very informative, and I appreciate the time that he took to do that. He suggested a berm to redirect the runoff water directly to the creek instead of running into my yard. A ground cover as well on that berm. Large, full-size evergreen trees, such as Leland cypress trees, or, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, arbor vitae. They look like Leland cypress, but both of these types of trees are super fast growing and they tend to fill in the area very quickly. He also recommended a tall privacy fence. He said treated lumber, but personally, from what I know of having a privacy fence before I moved out here to Jackson, it was a wooden fence at our house. And it looks great for about 6 months, and then it looks like crap. And it falls apart, and it doesn't do any good, and it does not help any with the sound problem that we're having because of the traffic. So I would like to shoot for the moon here and ask for an 8 to 10 foot, some type of metal fence, sound barrier type of thing to help ward that off where we don't have to listen to it 24/7. The full-size trees to help fill in the view as well. I really would like to see this happen sooner than later because we've been dealing with this since December, and I think that's way too long. We have never been the same since we witnessed all our trees come down. It was a nightmare. So I would appreciate it if this would be taken into consideration, and I'm in no way in favor of any of this being done. I wish they would just forget that whole little red triangle on that poster board there and leave it as is and fix this at least, but not really sure I'm gonna get that wish. So I appreciate your time and listening, and I hope you'll really take these pictures and study them well and try to help me come to a happy conclusion on this problem that we have at our house. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood. Elaine Halliday?
Elaine Pilata, 131 Steeplechase. I am in District 2. For those of you who know me, I like to do a lot of research. And one of the things that I found was an article in the, anyway, it went on to, goes on to describe how many dams in Georgia are in need of repair or possibly would not be fixed, according to EPD and the Army Corps of Engineers. And the further I got into it, High Falls Dam is one of those. And I understand that the people at High Falls Lake want to protect their lakefront property. They want to protect their view. They want to protect their privacy. I don't disagree with that, but I think they have a bigger problem than this development. And that bigger problem would be, what is the state going to eventually do with High Falls Dam? It is not on their list of priorities, and it really isn't responsibility, would never be the responsibility of the developer to maintain and upgrade it. And so I just wanted to point that out because I'm not on High Falls Lake, but I personally went to many comprehensive planning meetings, and this was a joint effort between, remember Anita, there was a guy from the state, I can't remember his name, that was there, and he asked me a question, and he asked me, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm involved in a business in Barnesville, and we came here. One of the things I've noticed is there is really no business area or, manufacturing or something to receive business taxes for this county, and that was part of the comprehensive plan. And this development is gonna go through, folks. That's part of the comprehensive plan. That was done a couple of years ago. And any meeting I attended, I never saw any of the local residents at those meetings when they were talking about doing this. And yes, I feel sorry for you. You do have a place, but someone at the first meeting made a comment about we're gonna be known as, I think it was Four Rivers Park. And when you get into start doing the research about High Falls Lake Dam, they refer to the fact that when that dam is done, it's gonna turn back into probably and be renamed Four Rivers Park. So it's something that's been going on for a long time that a lot of people have not paid attention to. And that's what I wanted to bring up to everybody on this thing is that you should go and look at the research on it. High Falls Lake might not be a lake in a few years. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. James Petter, is it Petter?
Well, for one, he's already got warehouses like the 205 that there's nobody in, been built for months. There's some in Henry County that I went up there today and looked at. There ain't nobody in them either. There's grass growing in the parking lots. And for one, they're all supposed to be automated about the jobs, so if it's automated, that's no jobs. But my next question is, that hotel and travel center, that travel center is gonna be for big trucks. All you're asking for is trucks. You put a hotel next to a truck stop, you already got truck stops at the 205, they got prostitutes in them. Can't tell me they don't. You put a hotel there with a travel center, you're asking for nothing but prostitution, drugs, and crime. So the hotel is a joke, and the travel center, unless you do like Buc-ee's, where no trucks are allowed. You can't say that there ain't no prostitution at 205, because I drove a wrecker for 10 years. I've impounded a half a dozen cars from students from Gordon College out there doing prostitution. And you all need to pay attention to what everybody's saying about High Falls in the dam. But I've been after everybody to do stuff on 36. I seen 4 big trucks come out of Liberty Hill Road, which they're not supposed to be on, within an hour on Monday. I was going to go to work this morning, and 2 of them pulled out of there. I already had one turnover in my driveway. Y'all wanna just increase the traffic problem with this project. You know, saying they ain't gonna run down 36, that's bull. Cause I know they will. It's only common sense.
Thank you. Clay Harbin.
I'm Clay Harbin. I've lived in Lamar County for approximately 25 years.
Excuse me, sir, I'm sorry, for the record, what's your address?
1671 Highway 36 East.
Thank you.
Okay, so, I became aware of this. When I first became aware of it, I got the narrative that everybody, I think, gets when they first hear about it. And I was, to be honest with you, I was excited about it. I really was. Well, you know, then I read this. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but this kind of paints a different picture. To say that I'm concerned is an understatement. I'm not particularly against development. My land is well away from it, so there's not going to be any immediate effect on my land, other than the fact that maybe eventually, like was done with this project, it'll be decided that my land needs to be included in some way. It'll be taken away from it. There is a great deal of evidence that in this country, that if you go up against big developments of this size and this money, they come after you. Okay? The public is waking up to it. We're tired of it. What the lady said earlier about how she had been to many of the meetings, I haven't been, and nothing has ever been mentioned about this. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Big money always gets its ducks in a row before it ever even begins to tell the public. Because it knows that generally the public is going to be against anything. And so it prepares already knowing that. Well, unfortunately, you guys are dealing with a public that has been screwed over by our government royally a lot.
Amen.
And we don't trust you.
Amen.
We think you're liars. Okay?
Hey,
Calm it down.
that's enough.
Excuse me, I apologize.
That's
I
ridiculous.
apologize for not raising my voice.
No, we don't do that.
So this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna
No,
shut
we
me up.
don't,
No,
we're
we don't
not
shut
gonna
you
let
up.
you.
We're just asking you
Calm
to
it
be
down.
polite.
Calm it
Okay.
down. I did not
I'll be-
ask the deputy to come up here tonight because we are all
I'll
grown
be
folks.
happy if you ask him to come up.
We shouldn't need one.
He's a friend of mine.
Calm down. We
Okay?
got more than one.
Look,
down.
what you're seeing before you is the opposition that's coming your way. As we wake up to what's going on here, we are not going to roll over and go, okay, we can't say anything because big money, they're coming in, they're gonna do it. What I see here is World Economic Forum. Now, you can deny it, you can tell me that's not the case, fine, do that, but it's not gonna change my mind. And there's a forced ruin, guys, and it's not about violence, it's about no more. That's what it's about. We've had it. We're not gonna do it. If this thing's so great, then give it 8, 9 years. After we get on the other side of this nonsense we're in right now, then we'll be a little more clear-headed. But right now, no. No. And I'm speaking for a lot of people. So take that into consideration. We're not gonna stand and do nothing. That's what the American public has done. That's the reason why we're at where we're at right now. We're at that point because we've done nothing. We've learned our lesson. We're not gonna stand still. understand that once we crank up, we're a force to be reckoned with. And we are gonna crank up. So thank you for your time. Again, I apologize for, getting passionate, but I've had almost a decade of nonsense, of political and governmental push that has got me in a corner, it's got me angry. And whether or not you deserve that anger, I don't know. So I apologize. Thank you.
While the apology is appreciated, I would like to remind everyone that those of us that sit on this panel are volunteers. We spend our time and effort. Many decisions were made before everyone that's here now was here. So I would appreciate that we not have discussions that are not respectful of each other. This is our community. Each one is equally important in our community, but we do need to be respectful. Our last speaker is Lisa Sayers.
Lisa Dryden Sayers, 123 Willow Way, Jackson, Georgia, 30233. I am proud that Lamar County has put these forums on for all of us to be heard, as there are two diametrically opposed land uses that are being merged at high speed around this golden corridor to the eastern Gulf Coast. I-75 is also an impervious surface that is being increased simultaneously to these developments. Two of the largest industrial activities that we have ever seen in Lamar and Monroe, all combined. Larger than the size of the lake and the state park combined. That is scary, and it is a huge change. But we do have to forge a path forward that accomplishes Legacy 75's goal, along with not destroying an irreplaceable recreational lake, waterfall, and negatively impacts a historical and ecological area. A huge part of High Falls Town and Lake Persona fears the development, mistakes, and lack of enforcement at every level, including the state, in all three counties that are waterfront. They have increased the vulnerability of this 650-acre lake, and look at how big just this development is. It eclipses that by a huge amount, and it will be dwarfed by the industrialization along the entire north and western and now southern surroundings. 3 out of 4 major waterways will be impacted by Legacy 75. And Lamar County and Monroe have several subdivisions that are impacted that are all combined together, as well as a small fishing lake and an antique dam wall. I'm grateful that Doug Adams has shown flexibility, and we want him to succeed very much. And we want to eclipse Barnesville in revenue generation as soon as possible in High Falls. Our goals are not dissimilar, but invasive groundwater recharge area, industrial activity, with so much N2 acreage this close is very scary. We are not a polluted mud puddle, as some have suggested we might be. We have a state record catfish, and that might have been born up on Buck Creek. So we deserve our vision to have equal consideration. Allow us to become a retirement destination that brings their families, that rivals any in the southeast, every bit as much as this 75 legacy wants to be the largest in the southeast. Let's make him be the best. Let's make it be a model of combined land uses that suits both visions of the historic, ecological, and industrial. Lamar has invested nothing in infrastructure and demonstrated a lack of enforcement that worries us deeply. With such a gigantic project of such an industrial nature, we are all above or below someone else's water table. Our wells are critical to us. We've been here since the 1930s in my Bagley subdivision, with virtually no assistance or value to Lamar. Your perception of our expendability is horribly sad. Let's change that, and change it together. So thank you for designating a small area to Mr. Doug as a wilderness. Please try to do more. Show us that we actually matter, and that our lake matters, and that our dam wall matters, and that our desire to be a retirement and family destination truly do matter to all of you equally. Mr. Adams in Legacy 75 is not responsible for the lack of planning enforcement and perceptions that exist. But both these visions of High Falls must and deserve get equal respect and planning to succeed. Show us that this will be done, not by force, but with equal respect for all the parties involved. We have no confidence in the DNR and EPD because of failures in the past. Work with us kindly, because we and High Falls Lake deserve it, and so does Mr. Adams and his team. We can do it together, but involve us in a brand new, evolving planning process. We do like Anita, and she could help us all meet on the same page in a different way than we've ever done it before, and we and High Falls Lake deserve that. Keep these forums going. We appreciate it. We need to have confidence in our enforcement and the people who vote in what our taxes haven't paid for any of our services. They're all provided by Monroe. So please, involve us. You've got lots of people with wonderful history and geology and endless energy to help the planning process for what goes in. And God bless Doug Adams for taking that rock quarry off. You won't believe the fireworks that were going off on High Falls Lake when we heard that. That means the world. We appreciate the concessions. We appreciate the understanding a little more of what we are. Please help us do more and feel that our fears will actually be seriously considered. And God bless you in all your jobs.
Two members of the audience came in after the sign sheet was taken up. They asked if they were allowed to speak. I told them I would ask.
Yes.
Alright, we have Mr. Mark. It's D'Agostino.
Perfect. Perfect. It's Irish.
Oh, is it really?
Hi, folks. My name's Mark D'Agostino. I live on 94 Buck Creek Drive. I live on the lake. A couple things I want to talk about. First off, I want to express my gratitude. I was in the meeting last time. You guys stood up. And I don't know if it's a cause and effect but, the last time I was in this room, there was a quarry and a high capacity, housing part of this program that are now gone. I just, so the gentleman who talked about, big money going after you, you guys stood up. So that was a great job, you were brave, and our gratitude for that. As Ms. Lisa said, she also talked about, quality, and I'm gonna use the word externality, or that which affects us. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I work with, working with organizations doing planning for the Port of Buffalo. And this company runs quarries around the United States. And so I talked to them, and they told me that the blast in a quarry is, a human can feel that a mile and a half away. So, what Lisa said, I think is pivotal, that there's a gentleman who shall remain nameless, but we were talking with him over dinner a few nights ago, and he said, anybody can put a number on a page. So it's the quality of the analytics, it's the quality of the investigation, as Lisa said. That's what's really important. And so we urge you to continue your diligence and making sure that those things are done in a quality way. Two other things real quick. One is the warehouse demand is, I'm here with some friends of mine. As I said, I've been in supply chain management for 25 years. Over a year ago, I predicted that there would be empty warehouses here. Now, we all know the Port of Savannah is doubling output, so maybe they will get filled in the future, but we are building at a fast rate, and vacancy should be expected. The other thing I just would say is that I am actually running for a commissioner on District 4 in Monroe County, and I participated in the debate recently. In that debate, I made the comment, no county is an island. And I would say that, to you, because I don't know where you live, but if you live anywhere around here, imagine if High Falls, that area, was a place, for instance, where it was a mecca of great entrepreneurial restaurants. Wouldn't that be fantastic if we didn't have to drive 20 miles, to a decent place to eat, let's say. I know we're here in Barnesville, but if you're over on that side, it's quite a ways to drive. And I would urge Lamar and Monroe County, as it says in the Three Rivers planning document, these two counties need to cooperate. I would urge you to cooperate and look at how do we plan out the High Falls area so it's like Juliet or something, a place where people go to and it's a destination. I think there's an opportunity there that we should leave on the table. Thank you.
And this is that crib.
Would you repeat your name, please?
My name's Yvette Cribb. I live at 494 Unionville Road, in Barnesville. Technically, we're Monroe County. We're like down at the bottom of the map. I didn't plan on speaking this evening. I came from my sick bed. And because my husband and me, we moved out here last August, and we bought 22 acres, biggest piece of property we've ever seen in our lives. Never imagined that we would have such a beautiful place to live. And driving around and being familiar with High Falls over, the 12 years that I've just lived in McDonough, Locust Grove, and Jackson, the traffic is not going to be able to be managed in the area. 198 is not able to support that increased flow of traffic. If you're talking 18-wheelers and, a lot of just constant in and out of the exit. It's not designed for that. The bridge can't manage it. It's gonna need to be a bit widened or whatever. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Like I said, I hadn't planned on speaking this evening. But another concern that we have is, like was mentioned earlier, with the hotel and the truck stop, diesel tanks are notorious for leaking. Installing huge diesel tanks so close to a river and so close to a water source is very dangerous. And my major concern is the fact that I do have a well right near that area, just south of that area, and it is downhill. So any leakage could leach into our water wells of that area. And we're concerned with the increased noise, the increased noise levels and the effect that it's gonna have on the lake itself. I went kayaking up here, Buck Creek, and after the storm, and you could see on the tree line where the mud had risen, and it was a good 2 feet off the shore. The flood line was, it was nothing I've ever seen. And if you put more roads and you put, hundreds of acres of warehouses and, all this concrete and parking lots, it's just gonna make the flooding worse. And not even to mention all the pollutants and runoff coming from the vehicles that are gonna be parked there. And then you got the commercial zone over here that's increased, oil spills and all that. It seems like a little bit, but it adds up. I'm a high school environmental science teacher, and we're actually teaching about, industrialization. And so if you have all this industrialization so fast and all this construction, the movement of dirt, it's gonna get into the water and it's gonna destroy the area. And it's gonna happen so gradually. It's gonna happen so gradually because this project's not gonna be done until 2045. And so it's gonna happen so gradually we won't even realize it. We won't even really notice it. Unless you have your entire backyard chopped down. Next thing we know, you can't drink the water and our wells are poisoned and our kids are getting cancer. And we're sitting here wondering why. But like I said, I didn't really plan on speaking tonight, but I won't take any more of your time. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Okay, we are here tonight for this board to consider the rezoning application submitted by Legacy 75 LLC to rezone property to a mix of manufacturing and commercial. The property is located along I-75, consisting of approximately 112 acres, found on Lamar County tax maps. I gotta read all this out, guys, for the official record. 086007, 086002, 086008, 087002, 087003, 087004, 087005, 087008, and 088005. When this application was originally noticed, it included a 350 acre site for a rock quarry and also originally a 900 unit apartment building. The apartment building within the first couple of weeks was modified to a 570 unit apartment building, and then it was removed from the application altogether. After the last joint the public hearing from last week before this board, the rock quarry portion was removed from the application. So what we are looking at now is technically it's the few acres, I don't know what, hold on, let me hold it up. Got it right there. Oh, I was looking for the one that had the current zoning on that also. Oh, got it right here. Alright, so, we have, let me get over here so I can pivot. Alright, this is what is under one development plan. But technically, y'all are all familiar with the area. But currently, as of tonight, what we're looking at is the yellow, this is the current zoning right now. The yellow is already commercial and has been for 1999, I think, is when I saw that application. This is actually a misnomer. This little top part up, like where this little bend is, half of that's commercial, half of it's already manufacturing. The orange is already manufacturing. So really the only thing being rezoned is the purple through here, which is a good piece. That's a big chunk, not diminishing how big that chunk is. This piece of the purple on 75 is not part of any rezoning application, but in any conditions, if it is motioned on, just so it is so crystal clear that the 18 acres on the eastern side of the interstate is to be left alone. Just totally left alone, because that piece actually touches the water. So currently, commercial, industrial, agricultural. The request is commercial, and there's so many parcels, so it just makes it a little burdensome to list them all out. So the request is industrial, commercial. Does that make sense to everybody? Right. And for all of it to fall under one set of development conditions, to bring them all in together.
Is there any discussion, any comments at this time?
Yeah, I have a couple things. Miss Leatherwood commented that all the trees, and I'm studying, I may be wrong, but studying the map, looking at the Google map, it appears that her property is on the east side of I-75, adjacent to the lake, correct?
Adjacent to what?
Adjacent to, or on the east side, the same side as the lake is, it's on the east side of I-75.
It is on that side, yes.
Okay, so my question to our applicant is, what is the intention of the land use at that location? And I'm talking about on the east side of 75.
I'm sorry.
The triangle.
Mr. Walker, the intention right now, let me introduce myself. I'm Newton Galloway and I represent Mr. Adams. I'm an attorney in Griffin. I do zoning work. I represent Spalding County on zoning. And for about 5 or 6 years, I represented Lamar County on zoning before Scott Mayfield became county attorney. And I would like to think that after 35 or so years of sitting through hearings, I've got a little bit of realism to bring to things. With regard to the property that is east of 75, Anita correctly noted, the green property will be preserved. This property, I assume this is what you're talking about, Mr. Walker, this property is already zoned commercial. And the application does not change that. It would allow it to be put into a development plan for the entire tract. Right now, just like this property, the plan will be developed based upon inquiry and interest in the marketplace for people who would go through. Now, or be interested in it. Let me also tell you, and this is also something that's been zoned, as far as I can tell, for a good period of time. The Monroe County portion that adjoins this is also zoned commercial. So there's no change to the zoning. There's no plan on it now. It will be as the market develops it.
So you're not answering my question. I understand the zoning. What is your client's plan for the piece on the east side of I-75? The realistic business plan for that piece of land? Because I think that is a big concern to probably everybody in this room, myself included. You know, everything, I understand, it's a big piece of property on the west side of 75.
Yes.
And it's completely, you know, within the realm of reasonable thinking to think that you could develop something there and not impact the quality of life for everybody that's within a mile or half a mile of that area.
I understand. Do you remember from last week when Mr. Palmer was here and they had on their PowerPoint presentation? They identified types of uses that they would like to see be approached to develop there. And of course, they ranged from not so much big box, but I would say sub-big box and community commercial. And in fact, the zoning is likely, based upon what's been discussed, would take your C2, which is your highway commercial, but also allow uses that are C1. C1, that is your neighborhood commercial, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Vice? Am I calling them? And what will be done is a comprehensive plan development that includes architectural controls and required upkeep, traffic interconnectivity. The one thing I can't tell you right now is exactly what it would be. A standard retail use is as good as I can tell you. Now, I will tell you from my experience recently, and I've discussed this with Mr. Adams just briefly. Retail uses have changed since COVID. Retail and office uses have changed significantly since COVID. And in many ways, we have substituted going to the store for the Amazon truck that comes to your house. So I suspect, and this is just speculation based upon the trends that we see, that it would have to be successful, a community type driven commercial use in order to make for economic viability. There'll certainly be, remember, I think Mr. Palmer showed a picture of Home Depot and some others. He showed restaurants. There are opportunities for both there, but the best thing I can tell you is it would be a standard retail type development. I think though that by the time the market is here to support that, we will continue to see changes in what is available in retail, and I suspect that any developer, Mr. Adams included, will adjust their plans to do that, to accommodate that at that time. Much of what you're looking at just from, I'm not a developer. I don't play one on TV. I don't put my money in it. The premise of this is to be able to give the flexibility to allow a comprehensive plan for a decent cumulative development on both the commercial and industrial tracks. And I'm sorry, you may think that I still haven't answered your question, but that's as good as I can give you.
Well, a couple more. What is the acreage footprint of this particular triangle there? Do you know that?
I do have it, hold on.
57 acres.
And the accessibility to it would come from where?
It would have to come through Monroe County.
But it would basically,
You don't have a road to get up to
yeah,
that parcel.
but part of it would be, road usage of roads that are already in place.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, and the west side of the interstate. I mean, obviously there'll be a lot of greater volume of big trucks coming in and out. What do you, just, guess, what percentage of trucks do you see going west on 36 and coming through the heart of Lamar County versus, I mean, you're obviously right on 75, and I guess that's the game plan, is the majority of trucks are in and out 75, but
That's correct.
there's gonna be a influx of traffic, I think, big truck traffic. What do you see before that goes?
It depends upon what the market provides. You heard the gentleman talk that there are empty units and empty buildings up at River Park. I do know that one of the things that Mr. Adams hopes to focus on this are the current industrial phenomenon use of data centers. Now, if in fact this were developed as data centers, you will have virtually no traffic. Now, the trade-off though, like the other gentleman said, it's not gonna be a big employer. But you're not gonna have traffic in and out in huge amounts for a data center. You're not. The warehousing obviously would have truck-related uses, trucking-related uses, and goods storage-related uses. And of course, the traffic would be very comparable to what you would have at another warehouse. But if it lines up as a mix, and let me give you one aside. The other side of my practice is up at the Public Service Commission. You may or may not know Georgia Power has had to apply for new generation resources in order to serve 21,000 additional megawatts for data
Unless you say
centers.
that.
All right. Well, I saw it on your shirt. Now that said, when I'm up there and it's there, I have to fight them because I represent the entrepreneurs on the side. But the data center business, if he's successful with getting that, will generate virtually no noise, no fumes, no sound, and no traffic. Now, does that mean data centers are perfect land use? There's no such thing as perfect land use. From your experience, you know they would be electricity hogs. And they will also, some of them will require a significant amount of additional water resources. So the goal, the way we've approached it is try to be reasonable, to provide flexibility to allow the development to occur based upon a market approach of what he can attract. Now, as a general rule, Mr. Adams has had pretty good luck attracting reputable companies and folks who want to come here. And let me make one more point on this, and unless you got questions, I'll shut up. Further questions, I'll shut up. From the time I was working for Lamar County, it might not have been exactly in the comp plan, but if we go back to even when Bobby Burnett was chairman, and I'm talking about 2000 to 2003 or 4, Lamar County was in the process of planning for industrial development along the section of I-75 between 36 and down to High Falls Park. And the reason for that is because of 75, and because that is really one of the few areas that Lamar County has to provide economic development by means of an industrial base. And you cannot provide community services that people want and need solely on the basis of residential development. And you have to balance that. And it obviously impacts the people who are around that property, and I don't want to denigrate what anybody has said, because the statements were given honestly and sincerely as a statement of their belief. But the reality is, and that even though they are and will be impacted, nobody should make light of that or try to gloss over it. But the reality is, this has probably the least impact in terms of development issues than almost any place could be located in Lamar County. Now, I don't know when it made it to comp plan, but it has been around and discussed. Now, I will tell you that it's interesting because you've got 3 counties that come together at that 36 interchange. That's unusual. And if you carry out to 16, I drafted an ordinance to make Bolton Parkway a development corridor. The same way, for the same reasons, tied to where infrastructure would be and where transportation would be. But that permitted me in Spalding County to keep outside of that corridor the rest preserved. Y'all have to decide how to balance this, and that's what this is. I do want to respond because Ms. Leatherwood was talking about her property. This is a quirk in Georgia law that everybody should know, and I don't know that I agree with it. But under Georgia sedimentation and soil erosion statutes, I can go clear cut any piece of property with trees, and I don't even have to apply for a soil erosion permit, a sedimentation control permit. I can go and denude this 1,000 acres and do agriculture, including like row crops involving insecticides, with no soil erosion permit requirement. And that, I'm not saying that's right, I'm saying that is what the law in Georgia says.
But am I wrong in thinking if you do disturb the natural flow of water or the soil, that you are responsible for correcting that, right?
Anybody,
Under the law.
that's correct, Ms. Walker. Anybody who develops property. Now, there's some exceptions with soil erosion ordinance, but let's move the soil erosion statute out of the way. Anybody who develops property has an obligation to hold water on their property that would result from the creation of impervious surface. Your obligation is twofold. Number one, you are not supposed to be able to increase the flow, and you are not supposed to be able to, even if you keep the flow the same, increase the rate of flow. And that's why we have detention calculations to try to prevent impervious surface uphill from creating water flow downhill. And the law provides for that. The law will impose on Mr. Adams all of those requirements, but the law does not require it for timbering next to Ms. Leatherwood.
Yeah, and we understand that. I mean, you know, if your property, you can do what you want. This is America, and we understand that. But, you know, when it's impacting the quality of life of the adjacent property owners, that's what my concern is.
I understand. I'm happy to answer any questions if y'all got some more. I hope that was as good an answer as I can get to you.
Yeah, I just, real quick, I wanna point out, I had motion to table it last week because of the quarry. The quarry has been resolved, so I'm no longer concerned about the well impacts. I would like to see data centers, they use a lot of water, they have to be cooled frequently. That wouldn't be done from wells in the ground, so, you don't have to worry about that. With the traffic, for those concerned about the traffic, I'm also concerned about the traffic. How's that gonna work? But right here in my hand, I had the Department of Transportation. They have, made their report on this topic. I'm just gonna read the general comments so that way y'all understand what they are looking at in order to do what they wanna do, because they still have to satisfy the state. So the general comments, the I-75 High Falls interchange does not have sufficient capacity to handle the traffic being generated by this DRI. Substantial interchange reconstruction will be required. Scope to determine by a full traffic impact study. Ramp widening, bridge widening, and replacement should be expected. Coordination will be required with the I-75 CDL project that is currently under design. Intersection improvements may be required at other locations. Additionally, the I-75 State Route 36 interchange may be require improvements. State Route 36 corridor capacity and widening needs to be from State Route 7 to I-75. We'll need assessing in the existing and future build conditions. Improvements could be required. Intersections that need evaluations, improvements could be required. And here's the list of those locations. I-75 at High Falls Road, both ramps. State Road 36 and High Falls Park Road, Lamar County. State Road 36 and Chapel Mill Road, Lamar County. State Road 36 and High Falls Road, Lamar County. State Road 36 and Bucksnort Road, Bucks County. I-75 and State Road 36, both ramps. And State Road 36 and Van Mar Boulevard. So those are all locations that are gonna have to be addressed after this vote's held, if this vote is approved. So for those worrying about traffic, and there's also conditions that we can put to help those that are worried about visual, like what you're gonna have to see, noise being a big concern, there's a condition for that. Erosion, if this is approved, once they start development, erosion barriers will have to go in place. So it's not just gonna be clay just, flowing through your yard. They have to do erosion barriers. Unfortunately, he is right about clearing timber. Don't yell at us, call your state representative, yell at them, they're the ones that decide that. So that is all I have.
You want to make any further comments?
Yep.
Any further comments from our fearless leader?
Just a suggestion is if there is a preamble to a motion to deny, if y'all would do that first before we keep on talking, 'cause I'm hungry. But if, because that's an easy motion. If it's a motion to deny, just deny, and we can close the meeting, that's the end of it. If it is a motion to approve, there's a lot of motions, cause it's 9 different, parcels that all need to be included into a development plan. And then we really need to, put some conditions on it, if this is a recommendation to approve. Just a suggestion.
Understood. Thank you. Do we want to talk amongst ourselves? Any other questions or discussions?
Well, I think my comment is where I had talked with Anita pertaining to the water and everything here, in which this was something that I had some concern. Although they don't have all of the, possibly anything that they can do to prevent any type of contamination as far as the High Falls Lake is concerned. But at the time frame when I had the conversation with Anita, it was told to me that that lake already had a certain amount of contamination. And with that is where I need to know, after the construction has already been completed, as far as the company is concerned, they no longer have obligations to do that. And from what I'm gathering is that EPA, who's supposed to monitor anything that pertains to the water, any contamination or whatever, that's not happening on a regular basis as to what I think that it should be. So I don't know if you found anything else out about that.
I was not able to get an answer straight from DNR, but the question was on the, tell me those numbers again, Ms. Betty, or Sharon, the 304. 303D list. It's points where EPA or EPD goes through and they do monitoring of all the creeks, all the rivers, all the lakes throughout the entire state. attainment or, no,
Impaired.
impaired, so sorry. It's either listed as impaired or non-impaired. And, on the list that I could find, there are 2 points on High Falls Lake. One was impaired, one was non-impaired. Checked also a couple of the creeks in Lamar County that feed into the lake. The ones I found on those, both of those were non-impaired, so they were good going into the lake from Lamar County. The lake itself, but what we need to find out more information, not necessarily for this project, but just so we know, is the information on the non-impaired on the lake was for thallium, and the report was from 1998. So I don't know why it's been 25 years, and they're out there monitoring, like you see them out there taking the water samples, or.
We do.
And I think that would be a fish sample that was.
Adopt a stream does the water sample.
No,
Yeah.
this
The
is something
DNR
different.
does the fish. Right.
The EPD does, for this particular situation, is a separate group, it's not Adopt a Stream. Adopt a Stream monitors the conditions in the lake for chemical and biological monthly. And we've got over 25 locations that we've just added. But this is something different, and it's done exclusively through EPD, and basically they're monitoring themselves.
Yeah. So that's something to keep an eye on and learn more about, and maybe have a couple more monitoring systems set up within this property for the.
Correct.
For the adopt, yeah, well, we can help facilitate that.
Okay.
I would note that even though if we were to approve the zoning and move forward, we would still have some opportunities with each of the units to address the use of solar, for example, which I'm 100% in favor of. The replanting of trees, et cetera, et cetera. We would still have some authority to manage that. Is that not correct?
Like through, how do you mean, like after tonight?
I mean, after tonight, as an individual pieces coming in, or a particular building, will we have other opportunities to add caveats?
No, not this board would.
We would have to handle that now in required buffers, landscape design, and everything.
Yeah, once this is rezoned, that's it for you guys. Nothing else as far as zoning and conditions would come before you. There would be construction plans and construction meetings and things like that. But we would look back to what was conditioned during zoning to make sure they were following the right plans for construction.
That's what I want clarified.
While y'all are mulling that over, I just wanna point out, Mr. Walker, you had asked about that commercial piece, and then also the commercial that touches High Falls Park Road in Lamar County. All of that was done back in 1999 with no conditions on it. So, even though it doesn't require rezoning, to bring it into the fold with conditions on it, if that's the way it's going, would be better than what it is right now.
I don't think the ordinance back then provided for conditions.
It
I think I drafted that.
Yeah, you're turning it out.
Don't hold me to that, but it sounds very familiar.
Since there's been some consideration, is there a motion to deny the project, the application?
Make a motion to deny.
I second.
All in favor?
No.
No.
No. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion motion that we approve the rezonings with stipulations that we will list. And if we do it the same way we did the other night, we could list all of the items about each individual parcel and then vote one time, or we can list each parcel individually and vote on each parcel and vote 9 times. So, Anita, what?
Whatever y'all are up for.
With the condition, excuse me,
Oh, and we never got to the second,
I
but he
need,
was
I
still
need a
talking.
second for discussion.
I'll second that motion, so we can get into discussion.
I don't have a preference as long as in this very long, either way is very long. I just wanna make sure that no parcels are skipped, just for the record.
now I'd like to go back to my question then. If we're doing it parcel by parcel, would we have greater, options for protecting the environment of each building, for each building?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's, because what it's doing, I think it's probably best we technical wise, to go parcel by parcel, because each parcel has a different base zoning going to a different zoning. It's not all agricultural going to industrial. You see what I mean? Like one may be ag to industrial, commercial to industrial, industrial to commercial, like there's changes on there. And then if you'll do the base zoning, the rezoning on individually, and then come back and say, and all of this will be covered by these conditions. In my opinion, that'd probably be the easiest way to do it. That gets all the technical things in there that the Anita 20 years from now needs when they're dealing with this.
If I can piggyback off what she's saying though, so you're saying we can't set conditions, let's say, just throwing out hypothetical. So we set conditions for everything west of 75. So you're saying we can't set conditions for here and then have an additional condition or two for the triangle?
Oh yeah, absolutely, no, you can do that. What I'm
Is
saying
that what you were
is-
asking? Is that what I was understanding that correctly?
Oh, I'm
right?
sorry, I didn't
Okay.
understand.
I wanted to
what you
make
were
sure, cause that
asking.
didn't make sense to me there for a second, I was
No,
confused.
I'm sorry.
And if this is gonna pass, I think we certainly need to put stipulations on adjacent property owners or for our applicant to be responsible and held responsible for, you know, just like Ms. Leatherwood's got washing coming through her yard now that she didn't have before. She needs to be made whole. And anybody that is affected by anything that's directly touching this property or affecting them in any way, there need to be stipulations to make them whole.
I agree with that as well.
That's what I wanted guaranteed, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't fully understand, Sancho, I'm sorry.
So a motion has been made that we approve item by item. Would you like to?
All right, the first parcel is parcel 086-002, 28.58 acres located on Van Mar Boulevard. I make a motion to approve the zoning change from commercial 2 to manufacturing 2 to include all the permitted uses in M2 and M1 and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Parcel 2 is parcel 086-007, 95.51 acres with frontage on High Falls Road. I make a motion to confirm the existing M2 zoning and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No. It's just the three of us.
Okay.
But I believe that passes.
Okay, the first one was what? Was it 3-2?
4
4 to 1. All right, the third parcel is 086-008, 125.49 acres, which is landlocked. I make the motion to confirm the existing M2 zoning and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
3-2.
The fourth parcel is parcel 087-002, 144.92 acres with frontage on Norris Road. I make the motion to approve the zoning change from agricultural residential to manufacturing 2 to include all the permitted uses in M2 and M1 and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer.
All in favor?
No.
I got a
I'm
second.
sorry.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Now we'll call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 3-2. The next parcel is 087-005, 98.15 acres with frontage on Norris Road. I make a motion to approve the zoning change from agricultural residential to manufacturing 2 to include all the permitted uses in M2 and M1 and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-2.
The next parcel is 087-004, 79.9 acres with frontage on Norris Road. I make a motion to approve the zoning change from agricultural residential to manufacturing 2 to include all the permitted uses in M2 and M1 and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that in the order? No. 2.
The next parcel is 088-005, which is 158.24 acres with frontage on Unionville Road. I make a motion to approve the zoning change from agricultural residential to manufacturing 2, approximately 149 acres to include all the permitted uses in M2 and M1 and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer. A further motion to approve the remaining 9 acres from agricultural residential to highway commercial with all the permitted uses provided in neighborhood commercial and highway commercial, and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-2. Passes 3-2.
The next parcel is 087-008, 81 acres, which is landlocked. I make a motion to approve the zoning change from agricultural residential to manufacturing 2 for approximately 63 acres located on the western side of I-75 to include all the permitted uses in M2 and M1 and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer. The remaining 18 acres located on the eastern side of I-75 will remain agricultural residential and will not be developed, with the exception of the proposed Georgia Department of Transportation truck lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-1.
The next parcel is parcel
Hold
0.
on, I'm so sorry. Y'all know I'll let y'all start rambling. Which parcel number was that?
087-008, the 81 acres landlocked.
And that was a 4-1.
Yeah.
5-1. Everybody was.
5-1.
Oh, five.
Oh, okay.
I voted
Alright,
Oh, I thought I heard 4-1.
I did too.
I apologize.
alright, the next parcel is 087-003, 295.89 acres with frontage on High Falls Park Road. I make the motion to approve the zoning change from highway commercial to manufacturing 2 for approximately 191 acres as shown on the concept plan to include all the permitted uses in M2 and M1 and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex that will be governed by development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer. The approximately 104 acres remaining will remain zoned highway commercial with all the permitted uses provided in neighborhood commercial and highway commercial and its inclusion into the Legacy 75 Trade Center complex.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
3-2.
Okay, that's the last parcel.
So, I had taken the liberty of suggesting some conditions. Our fire chief has suggested some conditions, and also made little notes about what, like setbacks, there's a note about what setbacks are now. And so if you wanted to keep the same or increase. So where do y'all wanna start?
I would like to start on the triangle. I think that's the more pertinent piece on the east side. I mean, if we could do that one separately and then do the rest however y'all want to do it, but I think that's the most, pertinent piece in my opinion.
Between the 57 acres that,
Yeah.
alright,
I would like to see 100-foot setback, wooded, so natural barrier, with an erected barrier for sound and visual as well, where there's residential homes. So if it's just bordering like nothing,
yes, so there are, you have this Leatherwoods home, you have, you have of houses right here. There's a house there.
Right, yeah,
She's talking about
There's a
the front.
cemetery there.
yeah.
I know, but if you're gonna do,
Yeah, I just
Miss
wanna make
Leatherwood.
sure it's set out in stone on that, because that part matters to me more. Cause obviously we can do the similar setbacks for all the other houses
right,
as well.
I'm just saying, if you want to include every parcel that touches a house, that way it's uniform and you're not leaving anybody out. A house, a cemetery,
Yeah, well,
and a
in that case,
church.
yeah, for the setbacks is regard, but as Mr. Walker has stated, we gotta make her right.
Yeah.
So,
And-
that's why I wanna make sure it's emphasized, obviously where there's a residential home, there needs to be, I would like to see 100-foot setback with a sound barrier. Whether that be
Is
what
that
material,
height?
I mean, I would say 12 feet, 12 to 15, but I don't know what's reasonable, I don't build fences. So I don't know what a good reasonable height would be, but I also don't want that lady having to look at trucks parked along.
Yeah, so Ms. Leatherwood has a question, and since you're specifically talking about her property, do you mind if she asks her question?
I would just like to ask if the berm could be part of that consideration,
For the water issue.
Would that satisfy you?
along
Mr.
with what
Walker?
else you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, water and sound, like I said, we need to make her whole.
Right.
Or, she needs to be made whole, because
Now, would that berm be on which side of the barrier? Would that berm be on? Would it be considered within the 100-foot setback wooded area? Or would it need to be on the other side of the berm, because then that would increase the setback distance, I would imagine.
Another question.
I honestly, I'd have to look at the situation, before I can really answer that intelligently, but my gut is to say that would be, the berm would be on this side of
On the
the
wood.
yeah.
Yes.
What was that?
From a practical standpoint, it seems like you would want to divert or stop the water flow before it got to the barrier.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could do berm with the barrier at the top of the berm. The other part of this is, would she rather look at a 8, 10, 12, 15 foot tall wall, or would she rather have the landscaped portion adjacent to her and then the barricade on the backside of that?
If we're doing the barricade on the barrier, then there needs to be something put in place to where if at any point in time that barrier starts to erode and a gap starts to form under the erected barrier, that needs to be remedied. And so, that's why I asked either ahead or behind versus putting it on top. Does that make sense?
And this is something that the applicant is gonna have to do for everybody that has.
Yeah, I agree.
Adjacent property, so, it's,
But I would point out that green barriers and the reintroduction to land of trees and so forth can be just as efficient as physical wood barriers or clay barriers. They take longer because they have to develop, but the green barriers, you can have strips of certain grasses as well as trees, and bushes. That'll make a more successful barrier and be more in tune with the original, nature of the property.
That
Well,
doesn't.
I think-
Ms. Bud? Okay, excuse me. Go ahead.
Well, I think that each homeowner, each individual that owns the property should be a part of that decision-making process.
True.
Because one person might wanna have a fence, another individual says, no, I don't want a fence, because I wanna be able to see the natural.
But not all those homeowners are here. And so that's why I wanna try to find,
Not our problem.
that's why I wanna try to find a reasonable solution, because the natural barrier is for visual beautification. So that way she's not staring at a metal wall like what you have going on the side of the interstates. But I also want that there because, if you have, vegetation, we have a drought, something happened, fire, that vegetation gets wiped out, at least she still has her sound barrier. So now she don't have to wait for everything to grow back, so she don't have to hit the interstate or whatever is developed in that spot.
Could we not word it in such a way that we say, if we're agreed on a 100-foot vegetative buffer, and we're agreed on some sort of a sound barrier, and we're agreeing on some sort of diversion for the water, could we not say that it would be a combination of any of these three or all of these three, and the placement be at the discretion of each individual homeowner?
Yeah, agreed upon by the applicant and.
That way, if she wants to see 100 feet of vegetation and have the sound barrier behind it and the diversion ditch behind that, that's her choice. But if somebody else wants to say, okay, no, I want the barrier, the sound barrier up right against my backyard. But if we say a combination of any or all of these three at the discretion of the homeowner, it's not gonna change any cost item to the developer.
The only downside I see to that though, no offense, sir, I don't trust people that wear suits. Nothing against you, just don't trust you guys. So, what stops them from saying, or stops a resident, okay, from saying, hey, I don't wanna talk to you, cause I think what you're doing is abysmal, I don't agree with the county, I'm not gonna talk to you. Now, if they say, okay, well, this person wouldn't answer, so we're just gonna do what we want. Or another person, they say, okay, hey, or the suit just says, you know what, I'm just gonna say I talk to you and do what I want. Because I'm just saying, you're leaving it open to conflict. And
I don't think you're leaving it open to conflict.
Yeah, I'm not concerned if it makes you feel better. I'm not concerned, number one, because there's so very few houses that touch this. It is a very small handful, and I already know most of them. So,
And she could make sure it's resolved before she ever issues a land disturbance permit.
yeah,
is that acceptable to you, ma'am? Does that sound reasonable as a property owner bordering this?
Yes. Any combination, are you asking me any combination of those three or all three?
I would prefer all three, but
Oh,
Well,
me too.
I'm just saying the placement of it.
yeah.
You know,
all
either
three.
the wall up front, the landscaping in the back, and the ditch, or you could have the ditch up front, then the landscaping, then that part would be up to you.
I am in total agreement with that.
All right.
And including the type of fencing or barrier.
Yes.
And I can't see Doug Adams doing a multi-million-dollar project and balking with a particular homeowner over, $3,500 fence or whatever. I think it'd be.
Alright, and that
that can
condition,
apply to every bordering property,
Every
whether it's
that
a house,
has a home,
cemetery,
just the house, cemetery, and church.
anywhere it borders private property that's occupied. I think that's
Cause that gets all the subdivisions,
Thank you.
as there are multiple subdivisions like Lakeview and.
well, I would say occupied together. Well, you're not really around the church, are you? Are
Yeah,
you?
it's-
So anywhere there's occupation, cause I'm sure the preacher there don't wanna be trying to spread the word of the Lord and then have, air brakes going off just outside of his building. So, I think that would be reasonable occupied.
Well, the same with the cemetery though, I believe it's still used, like has openings,
I see people over there all the time, I drive there all the time, see, I mean, you ain't gonna bother the people that.
No, but
reside there, but the
the
visitors
ones
may
putting
not.
their loved ones there, that is a bother, so.
Yes, include cemetery, church.
So do I need to somehow reword all that into a motion, or is that good?
I got it,
Alright, sweet, can we get a read back just in case?
a 100-foot setback, natural setback, with a sound and visual barrier, berm for water diversion, along every property line that has occupied space, including the church and the cemetery, and the owners of the property, the occupied property, and I'll clean it up, but the occupied, whomever the adjacent owners are, they get to choose the order of fencing, trees, berm, berm and also the material of the fence.
Sounds good to me.
Barrier.
Thank y'all for helping put that together. Thank you.
No. So regarding that motion,
I make a motion that we approve this stipulation as,
Well, when you do the second, I made the
Yeah.
motion. you
yeah,
did the second.
excuse me, I
Don't
second.
try to steal my thunder, man.
all in favor? That's approved.
So are we doing 4-0 now or 5-0? Are you voting? Alright, setbacks from the road, we've only got a couple, like, it's either gonna be High Falls Road or High Falls Park Road. Our normal setbacks in industrial, it's written very strangely, but they measure, it says 100 foot. It says 100 foot, but it's measured from the center line of the road. So on High Falls Park Road has an 80-foot right of way. So the setback from to the front of the building would be only 60 foot from the property line. And on High Falls Road, it's a 60-foot right of way, so now you're 70 foot from the property line. So just to make it
Uniform 100 feet.
100 feet, is that a motion?
I'll make that motion. I didn't steal your thunder.
Would you restate it so that we know that?
All setbacks from Highway 36,
No, it'd be High
There's-
Falls Road. Oh, well, yes, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
because that strip on Van Mar.
Yeah.
So all road setbacks.
all road setbacks will be 100 feet from the center line.
No, that's what it is now.
What?
It's 100 foot from center line now. So if y'all like that,
No, 100 feet.
100 foot from the property
From
line.
the property line.
Okay, from the right of way line, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
There's a couple of perennial streams on there at the public hearing, or after the public hearing, I believe the developer offered to do himself what's regulated now is 25 foot on each side of a perennial stream. He said that he'd be very much so willing to bump that up to 50 foot on either side.
Great. I'm fine with that.
Alright.
Do we need to act on that?
Well, the dude stated they would do that, so that's something we need to lock in, so they
Let's
can't
lock it in.
change it.
Let's lock it.
Alright, I make a motion that, the setbacks for the perennial streams be, 50 feet on each side.
That was a motion, second.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Alright, our fire chief has looked over this a lot, and he is asking for a Knox box on every main entrance to every building and every fire pump room. That IFC 510, that radio communication be in every building over 10,000 square feet, and that for every building built, that there is an access road that a fire truck can go around the entire building. That be made a requirement.
I make a motion that we approve the fire marshal's recommendation. Don't wanna have to repeat all that. If you need me to, hand it to me, and I'll go through these people with my reading.
I got it right here.
Is that not a state law that,
Not the all the way around and not the
radio.
the radio.
You would think it would be.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, you think.
be surprised.
Was there a second?
All right, did anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Was there anything else?
A couple. The 18 acres that's on the east side of the interstate, do we need a special condition on it to keep it undisturbed, or did we handle all of that in the zone?
Well, it was part of the motion in the zoning, but if
Okay.
you want to restate it, we can rewrite it.
I make a motion just to double lock in and they ain't gonna do anything with that.
That's how I'm gonna put it, double locked in.
Word it just like that.
Double locked in, don't
So
touch.
I think, but it needs to be stated for the general
Yeah.
public, so can we restate that?
Alright, I'll make a motion that the property, I don't know what the number is on that, the east side that borders the lake
The 18.
remains undisturbed.
I'd like to add to that motion, or change the motion. I'd like to add that it's what's left over after whatever
Truck
taking
lane.
from the truck lane. So the remainder that's left would be left undisturbed.
Yeah, that'd be the state doing that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be,
But we're dealing with 18 acres right now, and we're just saying that the part left after the state gets whatever they may need is gonna be left undisturbed. We can't make it undisturbed for the 18 acres.
alright, so I make a motion that's whatever's left after the state takes that part, remain undisturbed.
I second that.
Is there any other comments on that one? No? Is there a motion to approve?
We already did it.
And say we're calling for the vote.
Oh, okay, that's it. Is there a motion? Yes, okay.
We don't have to address anything with the traffic, do we, since the state is already doing that? Cause I was gonna suggest either, but see, I don't know, I don't think this would even be able to hold up anyway because of the DOT, but having High Falls as an entrance only, or exit and only turning left, to prevent trucks from turning right and going down High Falls to, cause
Yeah.
even with the DOT recommendations, it don't cover all of High Falls. It only covers that general area. So for trucks coming out to, leaving the facility on High Falls, I think it would be wise of us, even if it doesn't hold up once DOT comes in, if they do say, okay, yeah, you can still have that, I think it's good to have where trucks leaving on the south side of this property onto High Falls can only turn left to go to the interstate. They can't turn right and go back towards 36.
Yes.
So I go down High Falls.
Yeah, I don't want
High
trucks coming
High
out
Falls
turning
Park.
right. Yeah, High Falls
Yes.
Park Road, I'm sorry, I've always, High Falls.
Yes,
Alright, now, but all your,
so no,
Commercial vehicle traffic. I think commercial vehicle traffic, cause then if you have cars coming out where it's just like some dude works there, he drives a Subaru, there's no reason why he needs to turn left, So with commercial vehicles, would that be satisfactory way of wording it?
Yeah.
Alright, then I make a motion, for the High Falls entrance, or, yeah, well,
High Falls Park Road.
High Falls Park Road, sorry. Leaving the facility on the west side, only be able to turn left to go to the interstate. Commercial vehicles will not be able to turn right.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor? Approved.
Now, do we need to do the same thing for the other parcel on the west side, or the east side, since they don't know where that's gonna be yet?
There is no access.
Well, eventually there will, that'd be in Monroe County anyway. Alright, got it.
Just to stick one last stick in the hornet's nest, I'm curious, all the road improvements that are gonna be done in Lamar County to accommodate this, I guess the taxpayers are paying for that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, it's listed in the DOT thing that the developer would be responsible.
Okay.
If you get the DRI report, or I've been writing in this one, or I can give it to you. She has a copy of it, and it lists all that stuff in there, along with all the letters from citizens, Monroe County, and like some other people from municipalities.
Is there anything else?
Yep. The other night, I made the part of my motion that there be a 5-acre hotel site and a 10-acre travel center site. I think common sense is gonna tell us that those two items are gonna go on one of those 4 corners of that interchange. And the travel center especially would be a very, very good tax generator for Lamar County. The 2 hotels that are now at the I-75-16 interchange are running full. And I think that would be another good revenue source for the county over and above property tax. I'd much rather see it go on the Lamar County side than the Monroe County side. That's the reason I put that in as a condition.
That's also gonna be a big traffic generator for the county too. That's my opposition to that.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be, I don't see any difference in the traffic if it's on the Monroe County side or the Lamar County side. Cars don't care whether it's in Monroe or.
Yeah, but
If Monroe County approves it, then that's.
Well, it's already zoned commercial in Monroe County.
I see there being a difference because majority of this project, if you're coming off the interstate, you're going north, you're gonna be turning left. If you're coming south, you're gonna be turning right on the High Falls. So if you also put a travel center there, that's more traffic turning that way on the High Falls. To where Monroe County approved it, then they would be going the opposite direction of where all the traffic's already headed, so he's not wrong on that. And as far as that goes, I mean, I would much rather be Monroe County Sheriff's Department having to police that. And if they're doing, we got this huge site, I don't see it generating enough revenue to be like, hey, y'all have to put it on this side. Because there's already a lot of revenue gonna be generated regarding taxes. So I don't really see that as being beneficial. I think it would actually hurt more than it would.
I never see a point in time ever when government says, oh, okay, we got revenue for this, we're doing good, we're not gonna tax you anymore, we're not gonna raise taxes. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, never
And
happens.
so, you might as well fight for the good while you can, and because it's coming regardless.
I think when it comes to that, it should just be left up to wherever the developer wants to try to get it in at.
So did you actually make a motion?
I made the motion to do a 5-acre hotel site and a 10-acre travel center site. It generates a ton of revenue for Butts County from Bill Jones Travel Center. A ton of revenue. More than the property tax revenue.
Is there a second to the motion that is before us? Motion fails.
Okay.
It would be cool if y'all wanna do it, but you ain't gonna hurt my feelings if you go at Monroe County.
And it really wouldn't be cool if y'all wanna do it, honestly.
other items from the board members?
Yep. This is going to be a several in one. I make the motion that no construction begins until the development conditions between the Lamar County Board of Commissioners and the developer have been made part of the official record of Lamar County. The agreement at a minimum will cover architectural details, impervious surface limitations, buffer requirements, and signage. It will also stipulate that no part of this development will have access from or to Unionville Road and Norris Road. Also, if an agreement is not reached within 6 months of zoning approval, the county will take steps to zone all the property as part of this application to agricultural residential.
Mr. Chairman, what was the other road besides Unionville?
Norris.
Norris.
Yeah, I do. I think you can.
Unionville and all this stuff.
Unionville and Norris.
Are there any comments from our leader regarding that suggestion?
I wrote it, so I said no, I think it, puts some teeth in letting the developer know that, if this was approved, then conditions are expected, and the, Hillwood, which is a different industrial park, was rezoned back in the early 2000s and then never developed. But that industrial sat on there for a while. And then same thing happened, it was reverted back to ag. I don't think it was done quite right, but it was reverted back. Then it was applied again, rezoned again around 2012, 2013, and then it just sat there industrial. And what happens when you have a vacant piece of property with a high use zoning like that sits, is that the original agreements, the original, oh, of course we're gonna build this and take care of that. All those things are forgotten because you mostly have a whole new generation of not only elected officials, but of staff now dealing with the project who have no idea what was agreed on because things apparently never got written down prior to 2019. So, it leaves you in a lurch. It leaves everyone unprotected, and it leaves you wondering what was the original intent. So, yes, I feel it's necessary.
What was the time period again?
6 months,
6 months for,
an agreement.
oh.
Thank you.
It's been, there's motion and has been seconded, all in favor. Motion carries.
I have one last one.
Done twice.
I have tried to address in the stipulations every major concern that citizens have expressed to me. And one of the ones pertains to stormwater. And I know that typically stormwater retention facilities are over-engineered, they're not under-engineered. But I have had a multitude of people saying that's not enough. And I wanna make a motion that whatever engineering studies show the storage capacity should be is increased by 25%.
Yay.
Yes.
I'll second that. Oh, that's good.
Who provided the second?
I did.
You had seconds and thirds.
Seconds and thirds.
What was that percentage?
25%.
And routine testing, now, just to be clear, of contaminants, that's already a given, right? So we don't need to touch on that. Cause in
No.
the last meeting, the gentleman said that the part of the retention pond, so they could regularly test water in the retention ponds.
That was only during the time frame.
That's what I'm
while
saying,
they
that's a
were
given,
construction.
right? So that's
No,
already.
no, it's just during construction.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
I
was
think-
during construction.
I think that it should be done more regularly. Even after construction is over, I think that it should be required to be done.
Well, I think we're gonna do adopt a,
Yeah, but he said that it was only during construction, that after the development's finished, they're not gonna be doing that anymore.
Okay, so are we able to put a condition to where it's done once development is complete? Are we able to do that, or does that fall in the hands of the EPD?
Yeah, that was my question, is EPD or EPA not have any,
And do they even do a
cycles
job when
and-
it comes to that?
well, they don't test the stormwater ponds, but they
And
test
we
the
do point
creeks.
source testing at the, and we will be doing point source testing at Buck Creek.
Mhm.
So we'll be monitoring that for chemical and biological
Yeah, but I kind of
contaminants.
would like to catch it before it gets into
Me too.
the water, you know? Like, if you find it in the retention pond, do something about it until we're like, well, it hasn't made it to the creek yet, you know? So I'm just curious how that works, cause I don't know how the regulatory bodies handle stuff like that. That wasn't covered in my college courses.
I don't know, but I certainly want,
I think that we should require.
Alright, I make a motion that testing of the retention pond water be, conducted routinely. What is routinely, if y'all wanna put a time stamp on that? Like every 6 months,
Every 6 months.
every 6 months, after the development of the site, unless otherwise dictated by a regulatory body.
I second that.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor?
Did y'all vote on the motion regarding the engineering studies increasing the capacity to 25%? I don't think you did.
I thought we did.
You had a motion and a second, I don't think you voted.
Okay,
We're going to.
I'm sorry to bring that up, but
alright, well, can we redo it just to double check?
I think we voted unanimously.
I thought we did too.
No, we had one dissent.
No, I'm talking about on the increasing it by 25%.
Oh, yeah.
Cause if he's saying that we didn't do it, he's gonna try to get out of it.
Remember, he doesn't trust suits.
I don't trust his suits at times, but
If you would take your coat off and your tie down, we might be doing
I'll
some
work
stuff.
with you then.
the suit's just a lawyer uniform. If I walked in here in flip-flops and shorts, y'all would give me no credibility. Well, you're not now,
Yeah.
but I mean, but
Get a
anyway.
face tattoo, I'll use the credibility.
You can't
It
win.
will depend on how good your legs
But I
are.
just, the way y'all said it, I'm sorry, but the way y'all said it, y'all were talking about the engineering studies, motion and second, and then y'all went to the testing.
Alright,
I didn't think
Two
a vote
separate,
was taken.
Alright.
two separate issues.
Could you read it again, please?
yeah, can we just do it again real quick?
Yeah, just do it again real quick.
Alright, redo your motion, we'll just redo the whole thing.
Whatever the engineering studies show the capacity of the stormwater retention facilities should be, will be increased by 25%.
And I say.
Is that clear to everybody this time? Okay,
All of it.
so, all in favor? Motion passed.
Alright, and then on the water testing, I know y'all voted, was that 5-0? Or was
Yeah,
it
it was
4-1?
Thought it was all 5. Didn't all 5?
I thought all five were
No, I voted against, I voted
You
against.
voted against that.
And the reason I voted against it is
You don't like
because
frogs?
we're talking about warehousing, we're not talking about anything that's gonna really generate any kind of pollution.
Semis,
That's-
semis leak gas, they leak oil. Yeah.
That is so,
But also
we can
remember,
discuss
please,
that later.
that
The motion's been
Yeah.
made.
it's
alright.
been discussed
That's fine.
for warehouses, but it might not be warehouses, it's any use that's than manufacturing,
Exactly.
including
Nothing that says
manufacturing.
warehouses don't have chemicals in them or
They're
Like she
hazardous
pointed out, it's already been
materials.
voted on,
It's
it's
been
already
voted on,
passed,
it's a
so.
done issue. Is there anything else? I hesitate to ask.
No.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting so I can.
Is there a second for the motion to adjourn?
Second.
It's been moved and suggested we adjourn. We are, goodbye.
Make fun of him. That's right.